The European and International Booksellers Federation represent National Booksellers Association from the European Union and worldwide. Through our members, we speak on behalf of more than 25,000 individual booksellers of all kinds, including independents, chains, specialized, online and brick-and-mortar bookshops.
Hi, my name's Meryl Hawes. I'm Managing Director of the Booksellers Association of the UK and Ireland, and I'm delighted to join you today and really happy to be welcoming you to this session on towards a greener book sector. Our speakers today are brilliant, and they're going to run you through the whole gamut of issues around supply chain and how to make the sector greener and more sustainable. A little bit about the BA. We represent all booksellers of all sizes and shapes in the UK and Ireland. We have over 900 independents. We also represent WH Smith and Waterstones, Blackwells and Foyles. We don't represent Amazon, and we represent and promote bookselling in all its guises to government and to consumers. And I think it's fair to say that bookselling is a very challenging place to be at the moment. COVID obviously is dominating everyone's thoughts. That's why we're having this event online rather than gathering in Frankfurt in person, which is a great shame. It's knocked the stuffing out of bookselling all over the world. I mean, lockdowns have meant that in many countries, including the UK and in Ireland, the bookshops were shut for many months. That's compromised sales. It's compromised the viability of some bookshops, which is very concerning. We don't know what's going to happen over the coming year. But bookshops are resilient people. Booksellers are resilient people, and bookshops are resilient places. They are often at the heart of their high streets. They know their customers very well, and they're often very much part of their own communities. And they've had to reinvent themselves. They've had to get online. They've had to become hybrid model retailers, and since shops have opened again in the middle of June in the UK and Ireland, there has been an uplift in sales. Consumers, there was pent-up demand. People were very keen to get back into bookshops. They are spending more. We know this from the sales figures. But booksellers are exhausted. They're very tired. It's been a very demanding period for them. The shift to online has been, it's absolutely irresistible, and a lot of independents have had to get online and have become very adept at it. Amazon, of course, has been the main beneficiary of the COVID crisis in terms of sales, because certainly during lockdown, that's less so now, and it's good that the high street is now pushing back. Christmas, of course, is going to be very different this year to normal years. We don't know quite what's going to happen with infection rates and how the virus is going to operate. And we're all going to have to be very deft and adaptable as Christmas unfolds. The supply chains in all the countries around the world are having to cope with uncertainty. So as I say, booksellers are resilient and innovative. They're creative, and many of them have changed their businesses overnight and very quickly and deftly. And that is really what booksellers do. They are innovative, they do create, and they are on the side of the angels in almost every topic you could think of. They're really important, of course, bookshops, to our cultures, to our economies, and to our societies. And they're often run by progressive and right-thinking individuals. So booksellers, I would say, are very concerned with all the key issues, including sustainability. They have been for many years, and there are lots of leaders in the bookselling community around sustainability and doing the right thing in this arena. But bookshops are at the sharp end of that supply chain. It's one end, and it's the consumer-facing end. But it is a paper-based industry, and we need to take our role in that. And I think what the BA did in 2018 was to set up a green bookselling task force, because we wanted to take the lead on this, and we wanted to respond to our members who were asking us to act in this. So we set up a bookselling task force, out of which came a green bookselling manifesto, which helped to clarify what the BA could do to be a more sustainable company, and also what our members, what bookshop members of the BA could do to be more sustainable businesses. So it covered off things like, you sign up to a green bookselling pledge, which would involve you doing an audit of your green credentials. It would involve you seeking out energy suppliers who were green, getting rid of single-use plastic, using local supply so that you were a more sustainable model, using renewable resources and doing recycling. And a lot of the stuff that we were talking about with Booksellers was very practical. Booksellers are practical people. They put recycling out every day for the local authority to pick up. So a lot of it is very practical, but also we know that we can influence up the supply chain. So we started to talk to all of our trade partners. So we talked to the Publishers Association, Society of Authors, to IPG, and to BIC, to just start the conversation about how important it was for the trades to take steps in this regard. And lots of what we uncovered, of course, is that there was lots and lots of incredibly good work going on across the industry, and we weren't necessarily telling each other about it. So it was a really good exercise to go through setting up the task force, setting up the manifesto. Our conversations with publishers revolved a lot around quite simple things, where they can make a quick impact. So booksellers get inundated with point of sale material that was often, less so now, unsolicited. So there would be 50 bookmarks in one box, which they hadn't asked for books possibly that they weren't even stocking. So we've managed to influence publishers towards that. That saves them money, and it also saves waste. So those things are quite easy to achieve. There are bigger issues in bookselling, in the book trade more widely, which I'm sure we'll get onto in the session, around returns, because that's also problematic and wasteful. So we need to have difficult conversations around those issues. As well as reaching out within the UK and Ireland into the book trade here, we also reached out internationally, because this is a global problem. It's not something that we have to act locally, but we can't solve it locally. So we reached out to EIBF, to the American Booksellers Association, the Australian Booksellers Association, and others who were interested in the topic. And we put out a joint declaration with our Green Bookselling Manifesto, just to sort of put a line in the sand and start the conversation. Some of the things we were setting about doing have been stymied by COVID. So we were intending to publish a guide to creating a green bookshop. We as an organisation were going to commit to virtual meetings, to travelling less, to running green events. And much of what we intended to do around the Green Bookselling Manifesto was started, but of course COVID then hit, and it has thrown things off course. Now COVID has meant that some of this stuff can be more easily, we've moved towards a greener world in some ways, because we aren't travelling, nobody's getting on airplanes anymore, and we are doing virtual events, and we are meeting and realising that we can do that. We can do author events online, we can have our meetings online. There are things that are lost out of that, but nonetheless we are doing that, and we're saving money and saving the planet to some extent. But in other ways, obviously COVID has made it much harder, because the disposability of the COVID era is troubling, because we're all using plastic masks and plastic gloves, we're using hand sanitizer, we're creating perspex screens for stores, and that's just the tip of the iceberg. So I think there are silver linings in amongst the clouds, but I think what we all need to do as an industry is to start returning to the key issues that were preoccupying us before COVID hit, because we have to carry on living our lives and doing the right thing and making our industry sustainable. So I think that's my rallying cry as I hand over to the rest of the speakers, is that it's key that we return to this topic. Certainly at the BA, we intend to do it. We intend to reconvene our Green Bookselling Task Force and just re-energise it, and return to what we can do best and how we can start to fix some of the things that COVID has made worse. So to refocus our energy, to talk to our trade partners again. And I'm really delighted that EIBF are holding this seminar. And I was also delighted to see that BIC has reached out to its international equivalent bodies, and they have set up an international group of to look at green issues as well. So I commend this seminar to you. I'm sure we're going to have a really interesting time and hear some really interesting perspectives. And I would just say, bookselling is at the sharp end, and we can make strides, and we can also be very influential to our supply chain partners. So have a great day, and thank you for listening.
Hi, my name is Edsman and I'm the CEO of Bokhandelsgruppen in Sweden. I've been asked to share some of the initiatives that we have on the theme sustainability, or actually I was asked to share some things under the heading green bookselling, but I've chosen to take a somewhat broader perspective and talk about sustainability. But first, some words about our company. Bokhandelsgruppen in Sweden has 3 different brands. It's Akademibokhandeln, Bookhuis and Bookhuis Play. Akademibokhandeln is a chain of bookstores and also an e-commerce site under the same name, which is integrated. We have more than 100 stores all across Sweden, and we are the only nationwide bookstore chain in Sweden. And by that we actually dominate the sales through physical bookstores. And Bookhuis is a pure play online book retailer, and we have a very broad assortment. We're selling over 10 million different titles. And we do that with competitive prices and good delivery terms. Bookhuis Play is our subscription service where we offer audiobooks and ebooks. The total company turnover is approximately 1.8 billion Swedish crowns per year, and we employ about 500 people. And we are owned by the investment company Volati. And sustainability is a very important part of our strategy and have been so for some time. And Swedish consumers are very concerned that the companies that they buy from have a very good focus on sustainability. And as you know, we are also the country of Greta Thunberg. So this is quite high up on everyone's agenda. And our work spans across different functions, and we have a cross-functional team that works with the focus areas that we have identified. But of course, the overall responsibility lies with us in the management team and also with the board of directors. We have started by doing a materiality assessment, which we have done by asking different stakeholders like consumers, employees, suppliers, etc., to tell us what they think is the most important areas to focus on. And then we have used that to identify 4 different focus areas, which is the backbone of our sustainability strategy. And those 4 are: number 1 is to promote reading in the society. Number 2 is to ensure that our products are safe and also produced in a responsible way. Number 3 is to minimize the environmental impact. And number 4, to ensure a workplace that is safe, secure, stimulating, and also welcoming of diversity. And I would say that up until today, we've had most impact with the first focus area, which is to promote reading in the society. We have for many years supported organizations that work to improve schooling in Africa, and also improving literacy for young immigrants in Sweden. Another example is that we've had a big event where we invite school kids to our bookstores. And last year, during a week, there were about 2,500 school kids that visited one of our bookstores. When they did that, they also got a book for free. We also have a program where we hand out a medal or a pin to children who has proved that they've read their first 5 books on their own. And this is a very popular program, and there's so many children that come in with their parents every year to proudly collect their pin when they've managed to reach this goal. And this is a work that we of course will continue, and we're also thinking about how we can increase the reading also in the adult target group. But going forward, we also want to focus more on the environmental focus and also how we produce our products. We have done a lot of things already, and so far in terms of our assortment, we have managed to get all our suppliers to sign our code of conduct, and we've also started to make inspections at production sites. In terms of environment, the focus is primarily on minimizing emissions from our transportations, and with a special focus on deliveries of e-commerce orders, which is because that is a big part of our transportations. And so far, during the last 4 years, we've managed to reduce CO2 emissions from transport with 30%, which of course is good, but it's not enough. And we also climate compensate all our consumer deliveries, i.e. the orders from e-commerce. Another thing that we've done and continue working with is to reduce usage of plastic bags in our stores. And during the last 2 years, we've actually managed to reduce the number of plastic bags to our consumers in the stores with 3.8 million. We also have a marketplace for used books at Bokhuis, our e-commerce brand, where consumers can put up ads on books that they have that they would like to sell and others are buying. And this is a very popular part of our offering. At Akademibokhandeln we have a service which is a book club where you enter by paying an annual fee, and then during a year you can borrow as much as possible from 70 different new titles. And this is an alternative for people that don't want to buy all their books but actually still want to read all the new and exciting books that come out. So this is just some examples, and the effort to improve sustainability is a very long journey, and it has many parallel tracks. And I would say that even if we've done a lot of things, we've just started our journey, and I guess this journey will actually continue forever. So by that, I would like to thank you.
Penguin Random House Distribution recognises the importance as well as the impact businesses have on the environment. We are looking at our supply chain And where we can, we want to reduce waste and energy consumption. Not just internally, but also by encouraging our suppliers and customers just the same.
With the extensive media coverage in single-use plastics, approximately about 2 years ago, we decided to sit around the table and said, what exactly can we do within our own distribution? So we looked at single-use plastics as a real target area, looked out on the market and actually stumbled across the load hog lid. Project manager looked more into it. I'm really quite interested. Having been in logistics for 20 years, I thought it was a really innovative idea to reduce a single-use plastic. What we particularly liked about the lid is just how speedily we could use the product. We could attach it, and indeed if we could track it in and out of our operation, in a closed loop operation, we realised the benefits it could also give our customers and equally our suppliers that were going to use the lid.
Penguin Random House send the pallet lids up to their printers, where the pallets then get loaded and the lid gets put on. It then comes down to the distribution centre here in Colchester, and the lid then gets taken off and the lids then go back up to the printers. So it's a closed loop system that's actually used there.
So we applied an RFID tag into the lid to allow us to track them to our outbound destinations. And we found the benefits were absolutely phenomenal. So speed essentially, on average it was taking us about 3 minutes to shrink wrap one pallet. We now got the speed down to about 20 seconds to apply the lid. Equally, when the customer received the lids, they were finding they could take the lid off within seconds. They weren't having to cut off the plastic waste. They literally just stacked the lids, sent them back to us, and we scanned them back into the operation here. We found over in our first year, we've actually reduced our single-use plastic shrink wrap by 47%. That's a phenomenal amount in just a single year. We have ambitions to go a lot further with that in the year ahead, potentially up to the sort of 60% mark. And then we think we'll really start making the difference. And the interesting thing is the industry have started to really sit up and take note as well. So I've been out to London on several occasions and spoke to several of the book industry forums. She started talking about the pallet lids, and some of our competitors have actually got very, very interested in the concept of it as well, purely because of the environmental impact, but equally on the speed of applying and replacing the lid. We found working with Load Hog very enlightening. Their speed of response has been phenomenal. They've really helped us to push it within the marketplace, and we've made some recommendations of maybe some future changes to the actual scale of the operation and how they can best use the product itself. And I think they're really sitting down and listening, which is great. Great company to work with.
I'm Mathijs, Suidman, Commercial Director, Media Distribution at CB. CB is the sole book distributor in the Netherlands, owned by the Dutch publishers and bookstores. Our company name CB refers to Centraal Boekhuis, which pretty much defines what we are in the Dutch and Belgian book industry. We connect all publishers and bookstores with book distribution, e-commerce fulfillment, print on demand, invoicing services, and analytics. At CB, we believe that sustainability and book distribution go hand in hand. As a shared service center for the bookstores and publishers, it's in our DNA to offer ultimate efficiency in distribution, which not only drives towards the lowest logistical pricing, but also to a low ecological footprint. A little history regarding CB and our sustainable DNA. Get to the next slide. Yeah, there we are. Our company is founded by Dutch booksellers and publishers in 1871 because they concluded that a shared distribution center and ordering platform enabled them to focus on publishing and selling books. concluding also that they don't compete with one another on distribution nor availability of the books. As of the 11th century, farmers in the Netherlands had to work together to keep their reclaimed land dry, what we call polders. And one could say that polder culture is in our DNA. Although we are very competitive as a nation, we do understand that working together on some common grounds generates necessary benefits, also in regards to sustainability. Dutch bookstores and publishers in 1871 had, and today still have, the same polder idea about distribution. Having one distribution center for all publishers and bookstores offers substantial economies of scale, and therefore the opportunity to distribute books at the lowest distribution cost with unique and valued service levels. For example, all 115,000 Dutch titles are available within 24 hours, ordered until 11 at night, delivered the next day in the bookstore or with the consumer, of course, on behalf of an online bookseller. CB today is still owned by booksellers and publishers and is unique in the world in its economies of scale, low distribution cost, and high service levels. We believe that our founders made us sustainable by design. Let me get to the next slide. There we are. In almost 150 years, CB has grown with the Dutch book market. Those publishers which still had their own warehouses closed them gradually and left distribution to CB, enabling us even further economies of scale in distribution of books to all bookstores. Until the last century, not much changed fundamentally, apart from new IT systems for bookstores to order books and improved in faster trucks and distribution. But in 1999, CB enabled e-commerce fulfillment services for online bookstores. Instead of picking and packing larger order lines for bookstores, CB is now also able to pick just 1 or 2 copies and send to the end consumer. With e-commerce fulfillment, we also incorporated new and high consumer demand. Where bookstores were okay with ordering at CB shortly after closing hours, CB needed to extend receiving orders for the next day up till 11 at night. Since consumers in online bookstores are no different than consumers in a physical bookstore, also physical bookstores created their online presence, and today all bookstores are now ordering at night for delivering the next day. Therefore, most of CB's work has moved from working during the day towards 24/7 with peak levels late at night and often after midnight. If we are critical to ourselves, this is where one could argue our sustainable supply chain. For sure, online bookstores ordering directly from publisher stock at CB sounds optimal from a supply chain point of view, but instead of an efficient delivery to bookstores where consumers can go and buy and pick their books, we now pick and pack copies of books directly for a consumer, all the way to be shipped also all the way to the consumer. Although the book market is not a fast-growing market, consumers don't treat books different than when they are buying a newest iPhone or phone or tech gadget. I want it and I want it now. Not only online, where books are offered next to these hip and happening products, but also in a physical bookstore. Ordered before 11 at night, receive it the next day is the new normal. We all spoiled the customer. And it's fair to say as a trade, we became less sustainable over the last years to keep the customer happy. The question, of course, is if we, as a shared service center, let alone our clients, the bookstores and the publishers, are in the position to prevent this unsustainable supply chain in order to keep the book relevant and visible in today's challenging consumer market. One important area where CB was able to increase the sustainability in the supply chain over the last years is print on demand. As of 2010, CB offers print on demand solutions for publishers to have titles available via POD for those titles where the sales numbers don't match up with the cost of inbound and storage. With the focus and a storyline of total cost of ownership, CB tried to convince the production managers and the publishers that print on demand is a better alternative for keeping larger amounts of, instead of having larger amounts of offset stock in CB. I have to admit that although some publishers really do see total cost of ownership and successfully started with print on demand. The huge success of print on demand, and especially our short print run with automatic replenishment, no inbound cost, fast restocking, is not so much driven by the concept of total cost of ownership with the publisher, but again, by consumer demand. Publishers go to the extreme to serve the bookstore with their availability and ultimately the never satisfied end consumer. This does mean that indeed publishers now are considering short print run as a standard instead of printing large stock in offset and preventing high risks and unnecessary storage cost and pulping cost. So they expect that we will print 2.5 million copies within 3 years now, and today we already print 1 million copies. So for sure, an improvement in our sustainable warehouse. Let me get to the next slide. Oh, I forgot this one. This is an image of our print on demand facility. Transportation, a very important part of our business, because apart from warehousing and distribution center, the pick and pack, we fulfill our transportation via our own transportation network. You see some of our trucks here. We have set some ambitious goals this year. In 2020, we wanted to reduce the CO2 reduction with 40% and the particulate matter emission with 80%. And we're very proud that we will meet those goals this year by investing in new trucks, for example, the liquid natural gas trucks. And we're also actively seeking partners to drop our books with, mostly partners, of course, who already have fulfillment to the same bookstore, so we can limit the number of stops at the bookstore. We also work closely with City Hub Delivery, where we deliver to a drop-off point outside the city, where local emission free transportation then delivers to the store. Looking at the future, we need to step up in emission reduction. The question, of course, is, are we able, with our own transportation network, to keep up with all the investments needed to meet the sustainability goals there? To conclude, at CB, we believe that it's in our DNA as a shared service center in ownership of our bookstores and publishers. We are sustainable by design, but consumer demand, I want it and I want it now, surely puts us to some challenges. The question is, however, to what extent are we able and willing to push back on those consumer demands in the challenge to still sell books in this demanding consumer market? Print on demand is very successful in preventing overstock and meeting with the demand of availability as well. And for transportation, at the moment, we're able to meet all our ambitious goals. But we see a challenge to keep up in the future, not only with our goals, but also those set by the government. I'd like to wrap up with this image. Let me get to that slide. Here we go. This image of our new goods-to-man bin warehouse. We're currently building this highly automated warehouse, both to keep up with the 24-hour consumer demand and the trend of decreasing inbound stock levels. But like any business today, if you build a new facility, you can't do that without a focus on CO2 neutral building. So we did that, and we actually went above and beyond that by adding a wall of, you can see it here, a wall of solar panels, which are generating 10% of all energy used by CB. That's an equivalent of 150 households. So I've come to the end of my presentation. I hope to have given you some insight in our green book industry, and I would like to thank you for your attention.
Bonjour, je m'appelle Frédérique Massot, je suis libraire à Dreux, région Centre Val-de-Loire, France. Ma librairie mesure 480 mètres carrés, j'ai 8 salariés et je fais aussi de la papeterie, ce qui, pour notre question, sera important, je pense. Voilà, je suis membre du syndicat de la librairie française, adhérente, membre du CA et du directoire. Et nous avons ouvert, sous la présidence de Xavier Moni, ouvert une nouvelle commission en janvier l'année dernière qui s'appelle Développement durable, ou comment mettre de l'écologie au sein de nos entreprises sur tous les maillons de la chaîne et des acteurs du livre, bien évidemment. Voilà, ça c'est le but en fait de notre création de commission. Bien évidemment, les événements font que nous nous sommes peu vus puisqu'il a fallu trouver des volontaires pour s'atteler à la tâche. Et cette année, nous nous sommes peu vus pour des raisons sanitaires. Donc, nous avons fait quelques travaux d'avancée en listant tous les points sur lesquels nous pouvions travailler et améliorer la situation de notre planète et de notre quotidien. C'est un peu prétentieux, mais c'est nécessaire. Donc voilà. Donc, on en est à des multitudes de listes, des multitudes de pistes, et nous cherchons maintenant de la matière. Donc, des matières, ça va être des rapports, ça va être des contacts, que ce soit dans l'édition, la distribution, la diffusion, etc. On cherche toute forme de connaissances pour comprendre comment améliorer les choses. Voilà, ça c'est le premier point. Ensuite, à force de nos réflexions, on s'est dit peut-être qu'il est intelligent de regarder déjà dans sa propre librairie quels sont les bons gestes et quelles sont les bonnes directives à prendre. Alors, en fait, un engagement écologique, il peut être passif, vindicatif, politique, il peut être plein de choses. Mais au niveau de la librairie en interne, on s'est dit on va y aller cool, facilement, avec des choses qui sont vraiment tout de suite réalisables. Je prends quelques exemples. Lumière, tout en LED et tout refaire. Tri sélectif, bien évidemment. Alors, pour certains d'entre vous, ça paraît tellement évident que, mais chez nous, Français, pas trop. En fait. Donc, il faut vraiment une discipline. La réutilisation systématique du papier, des encres, des cartons, etc. etc. Voilà, ça, il y avait ça. Ensuite, on a aussi envisagé des achats de papeterie écologique, nos papiers cadeaux écologiques, avec des labels, sujet très compliqué, parce qu'en fait, c'est un méandre de connaissances que je n'ai pas, et il y a beaucoup de certifications, et comment faire le tri. Et ça, c'est l'objet du travail de la commission du SLF. Voilà, en tous les cas, dans un deuxième temps. Donc, trouver du papier cadeau labellisé, trouver de la sacherie labellisée, réutiliser la sacherie. Qu'est-ce que c'est? Est-ce que c'est du papier? Est-ce que c'est du plastique recyclable? Est-ce que c'est du tissu? Est-ce que c'est gratuit? Est-ce que c'est payant? Est-ce que c'est vraiment recyclé? On a voulu sortir de notre territoire de la boutique. Et là, on se dit qu'il faut avoir un dialogue avec les élus locaux, tout ce qui est maintien du centre-ville, avec de la diversification à l'intérieur, et pour éviter que tout s'échappe en périphérie, puisque tout ce qui s'échappe en périphérie veut dire béton, en fait. Toutes les terres agricoles, arables et tout, sont bétonnées, et on n'a plus du tout d'écologie, alors qu'on pourrait... donc voilà, ça rentre dans ma tête, je le reconnais, mais on pense qu'il y a une piste là-dessus, sur le maintien. Il y a un lien entre le maintien des centres-villes et l'écologie, ça c'est évident. Voilà. Avec après, l'autre partie, c'est tout ce qui est avec les acteurs du livre, alors éditeurs, diffuseurs, distributeurs, les plateformes de transport. Donc on réfléchit à des bacs consignés pour nos réassorts, Alors pour les offices, je pense que c'est compliqué, mais on peut aussi envisager. Mais les bacs de réassort consignés, bien évidemment, pour éviter les abus. On peut penser aussi à un transport, le dernier kilomètre, peut-être qu'il faut le faire différemment, peut-être qu'il n'y a pas tant d'urgence que ça, même s'il faut protéger la livraison de la commande unique et auquel on est attaché pour des raisons législatives. Donc ça, c'est important. Faire attention peut-être au label papier des éditeurs, peut-être favoriser certaines choses, voilà. Peut-être éviter toutes les piles chinoises dans tous les bouquins pour enfants. Il y a beaucoup de pistes aussi là-dessus, mais en tant que libraire, en fait, je n'ai pas toujours la connaissance de ce qui se passe chez mes confrères ou toute chaîne du livre auquel on adhère, en fait, sine qua non. Donc, ça, c'est l'objet de la commission, de travailler sur la question. Donc, est-ce qu'on doit regarder le papier, en fait, d'un bouquin? Voilà. Est-ce qu'il est labellisé? Est-ce qu'il est éco-responsable, etc., etc. C'est l'objet aussi du travail de la commission. Voilà. Donc, là, c'est un énorme chantier. C'est vraiment un très, très gros chantier. C'est passionnant. C'est passionnant parce qu'il y a plein d'éditeurs qui font la même chose que nous dans leur coin. Et il y a un moment, on va tous se rencontrer et on fera des choses magnifiques. Voilà. Et puis après, il y a aussi toute la partie j'achète des produits responsables, que ce soit dans le livre ou dans la papeterie. Je fais attention aux produits que je fais rentrer et que je destine à la vente. Voilà. Je favorise bien évidemment les labels écologiques. Et puis de temps en temps, quand ils sont français, c'est un petit plus que j'apprécie et que la clientèle apprécie. Mais c'est français, c'est pas le côté franchouillard qu'il faut retenir, c'est le côté moins de transport, moins d'avions, etc., etc. Donc c'est pour ça que c'est favorisé. Il y a deux choses pour parler de ce sujet avec un client. Il y a le rayon et le fond et les nouveautés que vous présentez, que vous mettez en avant, parce qu'il faut bien informer. Et l'édition et la création littéraire ou les sciences humaines, etc., font partie de ça. Et j'ai des tables et maintenant j'ai vraiment beaucoup de place pour le rayon écologie politique, écologie polito-pratique, etc. Et faire la part des choses entre ce qui est greenwashing, en fait, parce qu'on en a quand même et on en subit beaucoup, et ce qui me paraît important. Et des collections qui sont incontournables, etc. etc. Voilà. Donc ça, c'est la première façon de parler à un client d'écologie, avec du contenu, du savoir, et de montrer ce qui se fait. Même si je n'ai pas tout lu, je montre au moins tout ce qui se fait. Et la deuxième façon d'en parler, c'est de montrer que mes produits viennent de France, sont labellisés, que je recycle les sacs, que je fais des paquets cadeaux de façon tatati talala, etc., etc. Alors bien évidemment, c'est pas le même public en fait, c'est pas du tout la même clientèle. Les deux sont sympas et les deux sont enrichissantes et les deux sont sensibles, bien évidemment, à la question. Et de plus en plus, je vois depuis les événements du confinement et autres, les passerelles se font entre les deux. C'est assez intéressant. Les gens qui avaient l'habitude, tout bêtement, de ne pas prendre de sac à la caisse, d'accord? Parce qu'ils sont équipés, donc pas de sacherie, pas de transport, pas de papier, pas d'encre, etc. Ben, ces gens-là, ils passent à zéro déchet. Ils ne passent pas juste au petit… Voilà. Du coup, ils vont aller chercher un livre sur le zéro déchet et se poser des questions. Voilà. Ça, c'est un phénomène qu'on voit depuis le retour en librairie. Ouais. C'est sympa d'ailleurs, c'est super. On va réussir à faire quelque chose. Je pense que déjà, c'est de leur donner le choix de comprendre et de venir à la compréhension et à la nécessité. Alors, en les brusquant un peu, parce qu'il ne va pas falloir prendre de décision dans 30 ans et que c'est maintenant qu'il faut agir. Mais il est important, je pense, de réunir de la donnée. Exemple, tout bêtement, dans quelque chose de très pratique, les papiers cadeaux, j'ai pris un certifié, mais qui est un peu cher. Bon, ok, j'assume, mais peut-être que je peux trouver autre chose aussi sympa, un peu moins cher, etc., etc. Donc, pour l'instant, j'emmagasine. Mais est-ce que la certification sera valable? Est-ce qu'elle est vraiment conforme à ce qu'on attend de nous comme effort sur la planète? Donc, tout ça, je ne sais pas. Donc, j'amasse des données, je lis beaucoup et je donne aux syndicats et à mes collègues qui eux-mêmes donneront à leurs amis, confrères, consoeurs, etc., de la donnée, en fait. Un impact, alors, d'image de marque, c'est évident, vraiment. Non pas que ceux qui ne soient pas écologiques nous en parlent et nous condamnent, non, mais que ceux qui sont sensibles nous appuient et comprennent et je dirais que c'est un petit plus quand même. Voilà. Et puis surtout, c'est un gros apport économique. Bien évidemment, moins de sacheries, j'ai quand même une facture de 15 000 qui est passée à 5 000. Le LED, c'est pareil. Les factures d'électricité, elles ont été diminuées par 3, quoi. Enfin, donc, sur 500 mètres carrés, je vous assure, des spots, il en faut, quoi. Alors, c'est un investissement, d'accord. Il y a des aides de la région, il y a des aides. Il faut être un peu malin et fouiller et avoir le temps de remplir un dossier. Mais franchement, ça vaut le coup, quoi. Ça vaut le coup parce que c'est tout de suite, c'est palpable, c'est trop bien, quoi.